Hi, beautiful soul. Welcome to Life with Lex. I just got back within this last week from a 10-day Vipassana meditation course, and I want to share my experience with you because before I went, I was curious, what to expect, what to not expect, what even is this, what are other people saying about it online, and that whole thing. So I just wanted to come on here and share a little bit about my experience. That being said, I do want to say experiences, like everyone's experience is so different, and I think it's really important as you are researching and learning about Vipassana meditation and the courses to know that your experiences might be entirely different from the people that you are hearing online or reading their Reddit experience or whatever it is, whether they left early, whether they went through the whole thing, whatever their kind of conclusions were about it, your experience might be different. I just feel like it's really important to start with that. So that being said, coming back, I would say, is it challenging? Yes. Is it uncomfortable at times? Yes. But can you do it? Yes, you absolutely can do it. I think that the key with this is you have to decide for yourself and you have to commit to it. I firmly believe that anyone and everyone can do this with the right accommodations, and that it's up to you if you are going to decide to go with it fully. Now I understand timing's a whole thing, and it is what it is with that, but I think the key really is to be open and to surrender to the process. So that being said, Vipassana is a type of meditation that was originally taught by Gautama Buddha and other enlightened beings, around 2,500 years ago, and brought back by S.N. Goenka. And there's so much information about the history and the technique online, so I'm not going to go into it super deeply because I absolutely cannot do it justice. But ultimately, the core that it comes back to is to see things as they really are. And I think that is very profound because as humans, our mind tends to go into these thought patterns and cycles of trying to, think about how things could be or how we, might prefer things based on our cravings and aversions. And there's something just profound in seeing things as they are and having that level of acceptance with it. It's also the process of self-purification by observing oneself. And it is not something that is religious, it's non-secular. It talks a lot about, or goes into the connection between the mind and the body, and it helps you to kind of work through the mind in the conscious and then in the subconscious, and help relieve you from misery that you are creating for yourself through these kind of emotional cycles, if you will. There is a code of discipline to follow while you are there, and I would highly recommend reading through that online when you're going through the research process, just to see and better know and understand what to expect. There's a code of morality and ethical conduct that you are abiding by when you are there, and they create the environment for you to be able to do so with ease. The foundation of it is Sila, Samadhi, and Panya. And Sila has to do with morality and ethical conduct. Samadhi has to do with that deep mental concentration and meditation. And Panya has to do with the wisdom and the ability to come out of your suffering by seeing things as they really are. So, why did I go? I personally have been feeling very strongly I've been getting messages, in my spiritual life, my habits and forms of communication work a certain way, and I've been feeling really strongly in my intuition that I need to explore meditation and in a more serious or disciplined way. I considered and researched heavily doing a pilgrimage earlier this year, and I did not do that. And when I was researching this, it was waitlisted, and I got on the wait list, and I was like, if it's meant to happen, it'll happen. I'm just gonna waitlist until I see what's up, see if I can get in. And it all just happened really fast. Everything happened for me, and I felt like it was the right thing to do. I felt like I was kind of being guided through the process, and that everything was just working out. So I'm super grateful for that. Taking off 10 days of your life, kind of 12 for the transition days, is a big thing, and it's a commitment, and not everyone can do that. So I feel very lucky that I was able to do that. And I'm very glad, very lucky for the experience, very grateful for the experience. But I would say that it's an experience I would highly recommend anyone to pursue if they have any sort of interest in it. And I think it's really easy to be like, wow, like 10 days in noble silence. Wow, waking up at 4 a.m. Wow, not eating a full dinner every night. Like, I couldn't do that. And I think that we can really surprise ourselves. Like, it's 10 days. It's everything's structured very intentionally. Like, this is not new. They have this down, and everything from the code of discipline to the daily timetable structure is created with so much intentionality and reason and logic behind it. And I think it's one of those things where it's easy to kind of look at some of the things and our ego will be like, well, why? What about this? Like, does this really make that much of a difference? And then I think going through it now, I'm like, wow, okay, this makes sense why this is set up this way. It all is very intentional. It all is very purposeful, and it all flows and makes sense. And I'm just grateful that I understand that experientially now. So I would just say, if you're having those questions about some things, just trust the process. Just let go and trust the process, and know that there is so much care and intentionality behind everything for your highest good. One of the big things to consider is, while you are there, since it is a very dedicated and disciplined endeavor, and it is non-secular, it is really important to surrender all of your other spiritual or religious habits or rituals during this time period. And this includes everything from bringing a statue that you value, to praying every morning, to wearing a crystal, and, counting the beads on your rosary, and all of that kind of stuff. And that is interesting because a lot of people, including myself, have resistance around that, being like, oh, like, does this little thing, like, or seemingly little thing really matter? Or, would they really notice what I really notice? And I decided for myself, like, if I'm doing it, I'm going 2 feet in, surrendering to the entire process, and I am just going to see what happens. Because things are set up for a reason. And even though I don't understand why that is experientially, like, I understand that conceptually. And if I would just say, like, if you're gonna go through and kind of do your own thing in terms of that, the only person that you're cheating is yourself. Like, you are not there to prove something to someone else. You are there, maybe for many reasons, but ultimately, like, it comes, like, you're taking time out of your life. You're taking 10 to 12 days out of your life to do this. And I really believe strongly that you should give it your all and just give it your best shot. It's 10 days, you can get through it, I promise. But I would say it's so human and so normal to question these things. It's so normal to wonder, like, if you can get through it, and to kind of doubt and go through those experiences. But I just want to instill into you that if you decide to do it, you can do it. Absolutely. I think for me, it was on day 2 where I was like, okay, like, I'm doing this. Like, going into it, I was like, I'm like, 90% sure I can get through the 10 days, but that 10% of me was kind of like, like, what did I get myself into? What is this really like? Like, I've never done anything like this before. And day 2 was really when I knew. I was like, okay, I can get through this. Like, I can fully surrender to the process. I'm going to. That's what I have been doing, and that's what I'm going to continue to do, and just let it be what it is, you know? I would say it's very intense, but also very transformative. There was honestly more physical pain in the process than what I originally expected. And that just has to do with sitting and your posture, because you're in meditation 10 to 12 hours a day. And most people aren't in meditation that long. And so you really would benefit from practicing beforehand and figuring out what postures are best for you. It took me a few days playing around and like rotating different stuff to figure out like what my sweet spot was for each posture. And then I would rotate like 3 different ones. That was kind of like my bread and butter, the ones I rotated. And that was really helpful. Some people did the same posture every single time. So it just kind of depends on what works for you and your body. If you do have like physical health stuff going on, you can request a chair in your application. And they have all sorts of props. Like, you can bring your own, but they have so many props that you could use. They have everything from meditation benches to such a wide variety of all the different types of cushions and blocks and meditation shawls and all sorts of things that you could ever possibly want for your meditation experience. When it comes to the schedule, you can see that online, and it's the same throughout all of the locations. Like, this is an international thing. It grew out of India and expanded worldwide, and every location abides by the same schedule, the same timetable, every day, every course, and it works. They do that because it works, and so there's no wavering from that. I would say, like, going into it, I was a little bit worried about sleep, because probably get like around, for me it was around 6-ish hours of sleep every night, I would say, by the time like I showered and like had my transition time from meditation to bed. But you can probably get a little bit more than that depending on how you structure your daily habits, I would say. But when you are in meditation for over 10 hours a day, I would say that the amount of sleep you need is reduced. Like, at the end of the day, I was tired. When my head hit the pillow, like I was out, but I didn't need like 9 to 10 hours of sleep every night, you know, and your eyes are resting when you're meditating, your physical body is resting when you're meditating, but you're also going through physical experiences. So that's kind of like a give and take on that one, and then your mind's going through what your mind is going through, right? I would say you need less sleep when you meditate. There are 3 daily group meditations in the hall that everyone needs to be there at the same time, and if you're not there, they will come find you. And I don't mean that in a creepy way, but like, yeah, you're committing to this, so like you're supposed to be there, right? And then beyond that, there's a little bit of flexibility with where you meditate and how, I guess, because you can meditate in the hall during the other times that are designated to meditation. You can meditate in your room, and you can also, depending on if you're a new or old students get assigned. At my location, they had meditation cells in the pagoda, and then new students had a time period where they were assigned the cells as well. So there's some flexibility within that, and you kind of like figure out your daily schedule of like what you like and what works best for you and whatnot. So that's what I would say about that. When it comes to food, that's also a transition. So first off, I really feel like the food was amazing. Like, the food was beautiful. It was so delicious. It was well prepared. It was made with love. Everyone there is a volunteer. All of the people helping you when you check in are volunteers. The course managers, the teachers, people aren't getting paid to do this kind of work. And by the way, they run based on donations, and they do not accept donations from new students. Once you complete a 10-day course, you can offer donations, but you are there under the premise of the goodwill and the charity of someone else paying for you to be there. And that is significant because when we go somewhere on the charity of something, then it energetically feels different because it affects our expectations. And you approach things with a much more grateful heart and just kind of, more gratitude and more openness, versus if you were to pay and it would feel like a transaction beforehand, then your expectations change and then the energetics of it get kind of messed up, I would say. But everything is donation based. There's the most beautiful food ever. You have breakfast and lunch are your 2 big meals of the day. You don't have dinner or supper. In the evening, you have tea and fruit. If you're an old student, you don't do the fruit. But yeah, so that's kind of that. I was a little bit worried about it at first, but it was totally fine. If you have, health things, diabetes, stuff like that, you can arrange for meals to be had at dinner time for the health concerns. But I would say that it's much easier to meditate and have good meditation experiences, maybe not good, but like a more focused meditation experiences when your tummy's less full and your digestion is more aligned. So I get it. And it took me a few days for my body to adjust to the food situation, but it was totally fine. And the food was so good. It's all vegetarian because that aligns with their code of ethics within Sila, and they don't believe in killing anything, so it's vegetarian, and it's so good. It's just delicious. One of my favorite things every day that I started looking forward to were the nightly discourses. So every evening after the group meditation, there was a discourse by S.N. Goenka, and I found that it just brought light to my day, and there was humor in some of it, and then there was these deep reflective moments in some of it, and then I found that oftentimes questions I would have in my mind throughout the day would be answered in that discourse that evening, and it was just so well timed, and I just really thoroughly enjoyed the discourses and the teachings from Goenka every single night, and I really looked forward to that. So that's something to look forward to. I would also say that going into Noble Silence, as someone who is an introvert and as someone who gets overstimulated relatively easy, it was pretty easy for me to transition into that, and I had a lot of appreciation for those experiences within silence. Once you get kind of past some of the awkwardness, you are not supposed to be communicating with anyone, and that includes through eye contact, through gestures. So you kind of leave some of the social norms out the window, and you just kind of go on and do your thing, and you are just having this very individual, independent experience and focused on what your experience is. Part of the reason why they do that is because when people communicate about their experiences, then it creates these expectations within us. And then we have comparisons, and we're like, they're experiencing this and I'm not. And then you try to experience that next time, or whatever it is. And it kind of contaminates the experience for the individual. So I understand why they do it. But at the end, in the middle of day 9, the Noble Silence ends. And that's really interesting because throughout this whole experience, men and women are separated through obviously the living situations, but also the dining hall, the entryway to the dining hall, the walking paths, the entryway to the meditation hall. So the meditation hall is the only area where you really have the openness between men and women, but it's still split. And then during day 9, when Noble Silence ends and you're able to talk to everyone, they open up the doors for the men and women to interact. that is just like, whoa, like it's so different from going to talking to no one to being able to talk to like all these people. And I found that when Noble Silence ended, I kind of went outside because I was curious, what the vibes were like. And I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. So I went to my room for a little bit and then I came out, and it took me a while to kind of ease back into it. It was harder for me to ease back into the communication than it was to ease into the Noble Silence. And once I did, I was absolutely enjoying all of these interactions that I was having, because I felt like all of these beautiful souls I was connecting to were just amazing people. Like I was having the best conversations. I felt like it was just like my heart was just like these people were amazing. I was just really enjoying all my conversations with them. There was a couple people who I wanted to talk to and did, and it's just like very, very, very beautiful. But definitely there's like an element of culture shock, I would say, in my experience with that. But some people who are old students, like they just snapped out of it really quick. And I think that, maybe it's because they're old students, or maybe it was like the extroverted people who were able to do that more easily than I was. But, for some people it's more challenging than others, but it is what it is. When it comes to more of the meditation technique, you learn two things. You learn Anapana, which is the natural breath, and you're not exerting your will upon that, and you are honing in your focus, and then you are all in your awareness, and then you are also learning Vipassana, and that doesn't start until day 4. So day 1 through 3, you are going more through like this cleanse of the mind, and I would say that is when more of the intense emotions came up for me, of like what was maybe more in my conscious mind. And then day 4 and on, I kind of went more down into the subconscious mind, and worked with the body more, and started kind of working through these sensations in the body associated with the subconscious mind, and having these experiences related to that. On the very last day, you learn a meditation technique that I forget the name of off the top of my head, but it starts with the M, and it has to do with the cultivating like compassion for all beings and goodwill. And it's such a beautiful meditation to end with. Like it was absolutely like the perfect timing and setup to end with that. Especially after the heavier days of 7, 8, 9, I would say a lot of people collectively go through more emotional experiences on those days. So it was a very nice way to kind of heal some of the openness of the wounds that were coming up, and just a very, very beautiful way to kind of transition back, if you will. When I was in my meditations, everyone goes through their own experiences, so it is what it is. But I would say I experienced the whole entire spectrum of what was possible. You're kind of going through, experiencing the monkey mind and like channeling in your focus and the intensity of things. And then you're also going through these bodily sensations, and your experience aversions to the pain, and you're dealing with the pain, and you're figuring out how to sit still for an hour straight without any of these major body movements of your legs, hands, and eyes with the pain for the group meditations. And then you are also experiencing like cravings for these wonderful moments that you're having, and wonderful sensations and like the contrary. And so I would say I really experienced everything on the spectrum, from these like blissful, pleasurable moments and sensations to intense pain and angst and feelings of rage, and all these things coming up where I just wanted to like get up and leave and like shake this stuff out of my body. You're also agreeing not to do certain physical activity while you're there. Like you're not doing a workout routine, you're not doing you can't go running or jogging. Like you can walk and you can do stretches in certain areas. So you really hone in discipline and control, and building that trust with yourself, and figuring out how to discipline the mind and discipline the body, and work through the things that are coming up and not run from them. And that's huge. I think that's one of the core things, is not running from yourself, not running from the things that arise, not running from the sensations that, you know, you have aversion to, not running away from the pain, not ignoring the things that you normally ignore and distract yourself from. There's a lot within this that it seems kind of simple at first, but once you get into the layers of it, like there's a lot of really profound things within it, I would say. The assistant teachers are available every day for you, so you can sign up and meet and ask them your questions during lunch, and then also at the end of the night you can ask them questions. And then there's also a time during the day after meditation where they kind of work with small groups and do check-ins on technique, and you can have a little bit of a back and forth then. So you do talk during those times, so that's a little bit of a break from the noble silence. In my experience, they were so warm, so supportive, so accommodating. The course managers too, absolutely just like couldn't have asked for better teachers, better course managers, better volunteers. Just everyone was amazing. Everyone was absolutely amazing, and I'm just so grateful that I was able to experience that with those people, and they were just really beautiful. One of the things I would also say about the meditation experience is that it's really important to remind yourself not to expect certain things, not only with talking to other people, or like the idea of that, thinking about what are they going through, what am I going through? I wonder if it's the same or different. But sometimes, I would go through my day and my first couple meditations would be more emotional or more difficult. And I'd be like, oh, like today's going to be that kind of day. You know what I mean? And then it's like my next meditation would be a complete 180. And so I would just say, for me, it was really important in my experience to learn that just because things went one way earlier on, it didn't mean they were going to be like that the entire time. And I think that this really goes into the day. Like each day felt like a journey within itself. And then also within the span of the 10-day experience. And I will say there is patterns of like the emotional stuff that come up in the 10-day experience that you can kind of tell like on a collective level when you are especially working more like with the subconscious mind and the body through Vipassana. But even then, the experiences really vary widely. So it is what it is. Whatever you experience, and it might be different than your neighbor. So I would just remind you of that. I feel like I learned a lot. It was honestly more of a sensual experience than what I thought. And I don't mean sexual, I mean sensual, in terms of being really in tune with the senses of the body and increasing your sensitivity and perception and awareness of the vibrations happening in your body, of the, all the sensations, they vary widely. Like everything from the feelings of stress and tension built up in this area of the body to an itch, to full body chills, to these vibrations kind of going down the arm, almost like lightning strikes, and even more. Like there's so many sensations that I felt like I was tuned into, and you start working with your entire body. And so it's very interesting to go through and experience that as you are working on your equanimity of it and trying to give things like equal time and attention, and not to fall into the craving and aversion cycles that end up creating the misery for ourselves. Anicca was a really big teaching. Anicca, I just hear his voice in my head. And I thought about Anicca a lot. Anicca has to do with impermanence and how things are always changing. Cravings and aversions come up a lot in the lessons, and when you are experiencing these meditations with your body and how your relationship to the sensations are, I feel like there's so much within that, especially relating to these emotional addiction cycles that we all kind of go through. Even though this is not a religious thing, I would say in all of the major religions, there comes back to the teaching of know thyself. And I think that this practice really helps you to know yourself better. And it helps you to develop more self-awareness and to develop more self-discipline and to develop more self-trust. I felt like I built a lot of trust with myself. I felt like I built my mental muscle. I felt like I built my physical muscle. I felt stronger going throughout the process as I was experiencing pain and then stretching and taking care of my body and noticing, how certain things got easier throughout the days. And I was like, wow, that was kind of fast, and different postures around that. Noticing how well I could focus my attention on certain areas of my body and how I was getting better at training my monkey mind to coming back to what I was, originally doing when I was working through the body. I would say it also really helped with my confidence. It helped with my detachment from things. It helped with my acceptance of change and my acceptance of just things as they are, people as they are, situations as they are. Awareness of that within myself, within my life, and where that has caused harm and misery and suffering for me. It really pulled me back also into remembering what actually matters in life and how simple, like how we overcomplicate everything. You know what I mean? Like, back to the basics. A simple life is beautiful. Like, when you have the basics down and the simplicity of life, there's so much beauty in the simplicity, so much beauty in the nature, so much beauty in these small moments, beauty in the everyday flow, beauty everywhere. And it was a really good reminder for me in terms of what matters, especially when you're there and you just got the basics with you and you're not overcomplicating things. When I was struggling, I would say one of the things that I told myself that really helped when I was going through a hard meditation, or maybe like a more intense or emotional meditation, was that I just told myself, like, I knew I had the confidence that I could get through any meditation for an hour. I was like, if, this is going this way, like, damn, this is a lot, but I can get through anything for 1 hour. And if I can get through this for 1 hour, I can get through it for the next hour. And I can get through the next hour, and I can get through the day. And if I can get through this day, I can get through the next day and the next day and the next day. And everything's gonna be just fine. And it was. It was more than fine. It was absolutely wonderful, absolutely transformative, and absolutely everything. It was beautiful. Another element to it that I will say, last but not least, I could honestly go on with this forever, but I just need to say that it was so nice. It was so nice and such a relief for me to experience the digital cleanse and to go through detaching from my phone, detaching from the digital world, detaching from notifications bombarding me all the fucking time, detaching from people feeling like they have access to me all the time. Just getting back to nature and connecting with nature and going inward and working on myself and appreciating the little things. And it was so nice to go through that. And that this is coming from someone who has a phone addiction. Like, I definitely have a phone addiction. And coming out of Vipassana, I was like, I gotta do something about this. Like, I was having aversion towards picking up my phone because you drop off your valuables, right, for it. And I was like, I don't want to pick up my phone yet. I don't want it. I was like, dang, this is a bigger thing for me than I thought. So I went on and I did the things I needed to do to connect with the people I wanted to connect with. And then I ended up turning off my notifications for pretty much all my apps, except for like text, call, and email, maybe another one. But I just am like so aware how our attention is being harvested and our energy is being harvested, and it's just not the life that I want to live. So I feel like for someone who is in the digital space all the time, and it's hard to discipline the self to do that, when you are in your regular life, I would say. And it felt like such a beautiful, beautiful relief. I was very grateful for that. It was really good information for me too. I know, like, moving forward, I want to change up habits around that I already have, you know, and I want to continue to change habits around that and adjust my life towards my needs and my health and my well-being more so. I think that's one of the things that a lot of people are like, no, like I could not do that. And it's like, I've done that for like 5 days, but never 7, never 10. And it was absolutely wonderful. So that being said, I know I didn't touch on everything. It was a little bit of a journey here and there, but I just want to leave you with a few things. First off, if you made it to the end, thank you. Thank you for your time and attention. I really appreciate it. I want to encourage you, if you do decide to go, to really make the most of the experience. Like, you are taking 10 to 12 days out of your life to do this. So if you're trying to bend the rules or not be as disciplined with certain things, like, the only person you're cheating is yourself. And so I would just really fully recommend from my heart going in like with 2 feet in, going all in, and really just surrendering to the process and giving up those other habits and those things for 10 days. It's only 10 days. Whatever it is that you're, you know, going to miss and attached to, like, we all have our things we miss and are attached to it. It's not just you, it's not just me. Whatever that is, like, you can go back to it at the end of 10 days. You know what I mean? It's gonna be okay. I promise. And I would just say, don't expect your experience to be like mine. Don't expect your experience to be like the people who you have, you know, also witnessed online. Go in with a sense of openness for what your experience will be. I felt like I went through almost a lifetime worth of stuff when I was there, and so much around my life experiences came up, and it was so valuable. It was so therapeutic. It was so insightful. And I think it's really important to trust the intentionality of everything. Trust the process. Surrender to the steps and the discipline and the code of conduct and morality, and to not cheat yourself if you do end up going. I also just really want to remind you that whatever doubts that are arising in you right now, whatever fears that are coming up, whatever things like you're questioning, I promise you, you have the strength to get through it. Like, I promise you that you can do this. I know you can, but I will say the one thing about that is you have the strength within you already to complete it with success, okay? However you define success. But the thing you have to do is you have to decide for yourself. You have to decide to commit to it. And if you're not going to commit to it, then I would say it's not the time to do it. And when you're ready to commit to it, then I think you should do it if you want to, you know what I mean? But it does require that decision and that commitment and that discipline. And that is a crucial pillar to the whole process. So that being said, you are strong. You have all of the strength within you to complete it already, I promise. Thank you for your time and attention. If this was valuable, please go ahead and like and subscribe. If you have specific questions, go ahead and drop them down below, and I will do my best to answer them well for you. And I will talk to you later.